Check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Audio check. 1, 2. Doing okay back there, Scott? Good.
Quick announcement, everyone. If you are an inductee, past or current, please meet over by the wonderful Paul Pobresny Mustang, the yellow nose Mustang over there. Any inductees, past or current, please meet over by the yellow nose Mustang. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to start finding your seats, we'll get started here in about 5 minutes. Grab your last drinks, find your seats, say hello to your friends, and we'll be with you in just a couple. Good evening and welcome to the 2024 Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame induction ceremony. How is everybody tonight? Wow, that was completely underwhelming. We'll try it one more time, just like we had to last year. Welcome. How is everybody tonight? Thank you very much. My name is Kurt Stanich, and on behalf of the Board of Directors at the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame, thank you so much for being here to honor your friends and family. Now, it's quite a time in our country, but I promise you tonight, you will have an evening free of teleprompters. You might have dinner salad, but no word salad. And those cameras back there are not fake news. They're not fake news, okay? Those are our friends, Scott and Carl Guell. They film our evening for us, and they produce our videos. All we are here tonight are family, friends, and most importantly, Americans. Welcome. Glad you're here. I have a couple of distinguished guests that I'd like to introduce. First is Terry Baker. He's the vice chair of the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame. Terry, are you here? Let's give him a round of applause. Don't see him around. Wonderful. Over there. Thank you for being here. Also, my friend Colonel Charlie Merkel and his wife Sandy. They are here somewhere. He is the commander. There they are. Hey, there he is. Wave your hand, sir. He's a commanding officer of Milwaukee's 128th Air Refueling Wing. They are providing our wonderful honor guard here for tonight. Thank you guys for being here. Nearly 40 years ago, the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame was founded by a man named Carl Guell. He had recently retired from the Wisconsin Aeronautics Commission and set his sights on writing a book about history and forming an Aviation Hall of Fame. That following year, we inducted our first class of inductees, Air Racer Steve Whitman, EAA founder Paul Poberezny, and General Billy Mitchell. Since then, we've honored more than 150 airline pilots, combat veterans, instructors, mechanics, inventors, educators, entrepreneurs, volunteers, and enthusiasts. Each of them have made a difference in the lives of other people by pursuing the passion we call aviation. We're going to get introduced to 18 of those past inductees tonight. If you would help me welcome back to the stage the following individuals, and you can clap as we go. Tom Burchard, Steve Krogh, John Dorsey, Rose Dorsey, Lynn Erickson, Dr. Bill Blank, Don Keel, Lieutenant General Tad Olstrom, Dick Schmidt, Jeff Skiles, Jerry LeBaron, Dick Hanusa, Jim Saikovich, Dan Knutson, Don Voland, Jeff Baum, Tom Hagee, Dwayne Essie, Jerry Milhaff, and from the class of 1994, Archie Henkelman. Archie is being escorted this night. Well, she just broke off being her wingman position. That's Drew-Ann Pierce. She's helping us out tonight. Thank you, honey. How about a big round of applause for our past inductees? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may take your seats. Thank you. To formally begin our evening, our nation's colors will be presented by the Wisconsin Air National Guard's 128th Refueling Wing Base Honor Guard. Introducing the color guard and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please welcome Air Force Command Pilot, former Superintendent of the United States Air Force Academy, 2020 inductee into the Aviation Hall of Fame, Lieutenant General Tad Olstrom.
As always, it's a pleasure to be here on one of the most perfect days we've ever had to experience an event like this. Would you please, if able, stand for the posting of the colors by the 128th Air Refueling Wing Base Honor Guard. join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all. Please remain standing for the Gone West toast and invocation.
During World War I, the battle lines between Allied and Axis forces ran roughly north and south. The aviators who flew into battle returned home by flying to the west, often into the setting sun. When Allied soldiers were lost in battle, their final trip to their homeland was in the same direction. Aviators adopted a century-old sentiment and began honoring fallen pilots who had taken that final flight and had flown west. Since last year's ceremony, 2 of our inductees have made that final flight, Don Winkler and Daryl Gibson. If you could please grab your glasses and face to the west, which is over in this direction. And please join me in a silent Gone West toast to these aviators and all who have flown home before them. To lead us in our invocation, please welcome Army veteran combat helicopter pilot, FAA designated examiner, and 2016 inductee, Mr. Dick Hanusa.
Thank you, and for our invocation. Dear blessed Heavenly Father, thank you for providing us with this wonderful opportunity this evening for this Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And thank you for blessing us with the food you provided us for allowing us to eat this evening. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Last thing before we get to dinner, where's Colleen? Colleen Weber, is she here? Let me see. Oh, there she is. Colleen would like to come up and say just a few words right before we get to dinner about our auction items. Welcome, Colleen. Microphone's here. You can say something right into the microphone. Well, I thought you were going to talk about all the great auction items we have at the auction table in the back. Is there something wrong? Okay, I'm really confused. Give us just a second. So if they buy things, it helps the Hall of Fame, so we should be telling them about it. So I'd like you to tell them about the auction items. Oh yeah, I forgot. It's a silent auction. Sorry about that. So, but you don't have to be silent when you're bidding. Give Colleen a big round of applause. I dropped that on her earlier. And just like the elections, you can vote early, you can vote often, and you can vote multiple times for the same thing, okay? Thank you so much for being here. We'll be going with the investiture ceremony right around 7 o'clock. Enjoy dinner. If everybody's enjoying their dinner, the silent auction is still going on. And so they're going to cut that off in about 20 minutes. So while you're enjoying your food, if you want to go up and bid often, make sure you get whatever you want. Bids will be open, like I said, until 5 minutes to 7. Enjoy and good luck. Last chance on your silent auction bids. Get them in. We're going to close it down in just a couple minutes. Last chance. All right, what I need everybody's help with is we're gonna do a big group countdown from 5. Is everybody ready for this? Okay, ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bids are closed. I hope you guys won exactly what you want on the silent auction. Thanks so much. I hope dinner was wonderful as the conversations at the table. We're about to get into our official ceremony, and what a place to have the ceremony in. Looking around at everybody having a good time at this wonderful place by EAA, I'd like to give them a big round of applause, please, for letting us have our ceremony here. Before we move into the ceremony, I have a couple individuals that I'd like to thank. When your name is called, if you don't mind standing to be recognized. Our board of directors is led by our executive committee, which is Treasurer Colleen Weber. And yes, she actually can talk. She's in the back there. Secretary Henry Peterson. And Vice President Jim Zulsdorf, who also happens to be standing right here. Our induction committee is led by John Dorsey, who is seated over here somewhere. He has some volunteers that help that aren't on the board, and that's Lynn Balderrama, John Helminiak, Jim Zulsdorf, and Jimmy Saikovich. Thank you guys for your help. Director Scott Green is our video and photo wizard. He manages our YouTube channel and films everything we do year-round. Literally everything. I've shown up to places just to enjoy something or to talk about Leo Cohn or about the Hall of Fame, and there is he and his wonderful wife Julie in full TV crew mode. It's impressive. Thank you guys for what you do. Scott and Julie. Director Pat Whedon, he just came in from London with our friend Jeff Skiles. Where's Pat? There he is in the back. Pat serves a dual role as a director on our board and also the director of the Kelk Aviation Museum in Broadhead, Wisconsin. They graciously store so many of our artifacts in our archives. Thank you guys for being an instrumental partner in the Hall of Fame. We have 2 volunteers who go out of their way for this organization, and they have just joined our board of directors tonight. Dan Silvers and Rose Dorsey. Where are you guys? Rose is in the back, counting money. Dan is right there. Dan is our tech genius, and we turn to him for all the smart guy stuff. If we don't know how to do something, we call Dan, and that includes our wonderful new website. And Rose, I don't think there's enough good things we can say about Rose. She manages our member list, our sponsor engagement, and puts out that beautiful Forward in Flight magazine. Has everybody seen that? Has everybody Forward in Flight? Give a round of applause for that. She is the continual unsung heroine of this entire organization. Thank you for being the glue that keeps this airplane flying. Director Jill Mann couldn't be with us this evening, but she's the organizer of our silent auction and organizes the annual recognition of our inductees. She also serves on the scholarship committee with volunteer Joni Vilo, who is somewhere in the middle there. I see Joni. I don't know if she sees me, though. There, she waved her hand. That's led by Director Wynn Williams, and I'm happy to ask Wynn to come up to introduce our scholarship winners for 2024. There he is. Give a round of applause to Wynn, please.
If you look in your programs, you'll be able to see the names of our awardees for this year. First one up is Ashlyn Barwick from Marshall High School. She wants to go to the flight program in the Florida Institute of Technology. Evan Blomers, he wants to attend the University of Dubuque. He's from DC Everest and Weston. Isaac Donka is from Kronwater, DC Everest High School. He wants to attend the University of Alabama for some reason. Grace Cajon is up for her second year, and she's at the University of Dubuque from Mosinee, and she does so doggone many things. It's I don't know how she has time to actually study and maintain her 4.0 average. Cruz Patzner will be a sophomore at the Minnesota State University in Mankato. He's from Arcadia. Josephine Reif just graduated from Anago High School and is from Deerbrook. She plans to attend Notre Dame. Lauren Stetbacher is going to attend either Fox Valley or Gateway Technical College in the Aeronautics Professional Pilot program. She's from Horace Mann High of North Fond du Lac. And Adam Taylor is Assumption High School from Nakusa, and plans to attend Fox Valley Technical College in airframe and power plant mechanics, because, you know, as much fun as they are to fly them, we tend to break them, and he'll be set to fix them up for us. And these people are really outstanding. This is one of the best jobs you can have in our outfit here, is to go over these papers they send in to get a scholarship and see everything they've done and kind of project what we hope they will do. So, thank you much.
Thank you, Wynn, to our scholarship committee and all the people who make this organization possible. Who knows, maybe one of those scholarship winners will be an awardee someday of our organization. In addition to the work of honoring history makers, we've had a recent opportunity to embark on a rare journey thanks to the loving donation by a Milwaukee family of their father's life's work. So rare, in fact, that we are uncovering never-before-seen photographs and rediscovering aviation history. As was typical of so many families in the early 1940s, young Leo watched his older brother Greg leave home to fight in World War II. Greg's stories as an engineer on a B-29 Superfortress inspired Leo, but instead of picking up a weapon, he picked up a camera and began photographing airplanes much larger than the model airplanes that he and Greg used to build as kids. After World War II, Leo joined the Wisconsin Air National Guard and met a service pilot named Paul. Paul recognized his interest and talent, and being that Paul was a commander, granted Leo unfettered access to photograph aircraft on the flight line, many post-World War II aircraft. Both shared a passion for aviation, along with a group of airplane builders and enthusiasts in the Milwaukee area. Well, Korea soon started, and Paul was sent off for a year. And when he returned, Leo and all these friends met at a popular bar called Dirty Helen's in Milwaukee. Collectively, they agreed that this group of aviation enthusiasts needed some sort of formal organization. And so with the help and support of his wife, Audrey, Paul Poberezny formed the Experimental Aircraft Association in January of 1953. What's interesting is Leo signed those initial papers of incorporation. He was number 4 on the roster of signed-up members. He became EA's first official employee and their first official photographer. And for the next 2 decades for EAA and then the several decades following, he painstakingly took pictures of aircraft, and not only took the pictures but documented them. And the photos you were seeing being displayed of all the black and white images of aircraft are all Leo Cohn's work.
I'm John Doersch. I'm on the board of directors for the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame, and today we're at the Kelk Aviation Museum in Broadhead, Wisconsin. And behind me, we've got part of the Hall of Fame's archives. In 2014, we were approached by Bill Cohn, who is the son of Leo J. Cohn. Leo was a prolific photographer from right after World War II through the 1960s. In 2014, Leo passed away, and his son got in touch with us because Leo wanted to donate his photo collection to the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame with the idea that we would share it with the public.
I am so excited to be looking at the photographs that Leo Cohn took back in the 40s through about the 70s. And we have thousands, and when I say thousands, over 30,000 negatives that Leo shot in the 1940s through the 70s. Not only that, we have the negatives, but he did a lot of contact prints as well, and he had them all organized so well, which makes our job of finding and digitizing these photos much, much easier. And the reason it's so important that we are getting these digitized is because we don't want these photos and these thousands of negatives to just sit in these drawers for no one to see. The idea is to get them out so everyone can see them. We will put them eventually on a public searchable website, and it's going to be a really cool thing.
Leo didn't know it, but he was a great database guy. He built a modern database in the 1950s, and it includes a unique identifier, tail numbers, locations, names, dates. The data that's in this is incredible.
Each negative is individually numbered sequentially, and all of this information is usually typed on these envelopes that the negatives are contained in. And on these envelopes we have, of course, the unique number that he assigned. There's the aircraft type. We also have the dates that he took the photo, locations, serial numbers, and ownership records, also engine information, or if it was on floats or skis, sometimes he included those models.
Leo's photographs are really, really high quality by today's standards, which surprises a lot of people. But he was shooting what's roughly considered medium format photography, which allows you to take a full-size picture of an aircraft like this and then zoom in on the detail, and you can tell how it was built.
We've got a photo that he had taken of a Ford Trimotor where we were able to zoom in and see the data plate on the back of the vertical stabilizer. Turns out that aircraft is now hanging in the Smithsonian. Crazy stuff that we're able to pick out from those photos. It's just amazing. We're so fortunate to be able to have it currently stored in the Kelk Aviation Museum in Brodhead, but our plan here is to digitize each and every one of those photos and then make them, and this was what Leo really wanted, was to make his collection available to the public.
We want to honor his wishes, and so we are embarking on a great effort to get those photos and those negatives digitized so that we can make them available to the public just like Leo wanted.
We can't do this by ourselves. We're looking for help from every aviator. Small donation, large donation, or somewhere in between. Please consider donating to help us digitize this most important collection and make it available to everyone on the internet. Thanks.
Before Leo passed in 2014, he made his son Bill promise that his collection would live on, that it wouldn't just go somewhere never to see the light of day again. At a recent unveiling of the Leo J. Cohn collection exhibit at the Kelk Aviation Museum, Leo's son Bill remarked that because of the work of so many, his burden was finally lifted. My heartfelt thanks to Dan Silvers, Scott Green, John and Rose Dorsey, Lynn Balderrama, Pat Whedon, Ami Eckert-Lee, and the volunteers of the Kelk Aviation Museum for countless hours of work and dedication to this project. But our work continues. We're hoping you all can help us spread the word about this effort. And tonight's silent auction proceeds are going to directly support the work of the Hall of Fame in preserving this entire collection. Your generosity has helped raise $7,425 to this work. Thank you all so much for everything you've donated tonight. That is fantastic. And now the moment you're all actually here for. the induction ceremony, the celebration of our 2024 class. To introduce our first inductee, please welcome Hall of Fame Vice President, Mr. Jim Zuhlsdorf.
Before we go on, I want to make one, you left somebody's name off of the list. Kurt Stanich. Let's have a, I can't tell you how much this man has done for the organization. I mean, it's really something. It's my honor and privilege to introduce the first inductee of the class of 2024. And I'm not going to make a big speech because you're going to see a video pretty quick here. And just pay attention to the screen.
B-17s will be in 3 boxes of 60 each. Altitude, 25,000 feet. The course home is 249 degrees magnetic.
Like many young Americans who went off to war in 1941, George Doersch was a farm boy. Born in 1921, George grew up on the family farm near Seymour, Wisconsin. Like other farm boys coming of age during the Great Depression, he learned to hunt and shoot. He learned his way around machinery, and he learned to be independent and to solve problems by using his wits and whatever was at hand. After high school in Seymour and attending Lawrence University in Appleton, he joined the National Guard as a member of the 120th Field Artillery Band. When America entered World War II, George enlisted in the Army Air Corps and volunteered for pilot training. After earning his wings, he requested training in fighters. So did the majority of his fellow Air Corps trainees. Washouts and accidents narrowed the list of future fighter pilots, but George was a bit older and a bit more mature than many trainees, and he secured an assignment to fly P-47 Thunderbolts. He joined the 370th Fighter Squadron, 359th Fighter Group at East Wretham Airfield in Norfolk, England. The 359th would become one of the legendary fighter groups in the 8th Air Force. It was a lucky assignment, and not the last time luck would play a role in George Doersch's flying career. From November 1943 until May 1944, the squadron flew their P-47s, escorting 8th Air Force bombing missions over occupied Europe. At the ripe old age of 22, George was considered an old man by many of his squadron mates. They nicknamed him Pop Doersch, and he dubbed his airplane Old Goat. In May 1944, the group traded its P-47s for P-51 Mustangs. If the P-47 was a workhorse, solid and capable, the P-51 was a stallion, fast, nimble, and spirited. In the cockpit of the fabled Mustang, George Doersch's superior skill and aggression as a fighter pilot began to shine. It wasn't long before he was adding kill markers to his P-51.
So I wasted about half of my ammunition and 3 guns. At that time, that model of 51 only had 4 guns. And 3 of those guns quit firing. And I ended up on a deck. I shot the one down. I damaged another one coming down. Then I saw this 109 coming down. Now, there's a lot of Germans flying around, but nobody bothered me. So the 109 coming down kind of slow, and I thought, you know, if I can get this 109 with 1 gun, that's going to be a good trick. So I went over there and I pulled the trigger and it went pop, 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 and the last gun stopped firing. Well, I thought I'll take some gun camera film anyhow, and have some footage, you know. So I'd taken pictures of him, and he jumped out. I didn't know, second pass or something like that. He jumped out. Well, it's a good thing my gun camera was working, because I was all alone. Nobody would ever believe that story.
By the end of the war, he was credited with 10.5 aerial victories over German fighters and another 1.5 destroyed on the ground. That makes him Wisconsin's 2nd highest fighter ace, behind Poplar, Wisconsin's Dick Bong.
So I came home from a football game late one night, and as I came in, my dad was standing at the kitchen table, and which was unusual. He would normally turn in early, and I noticed he had a service record, one of his service records from his missions, and I looked at that number, and it was a really pretty impressive thing, and I asked him, I said, why are there so many, why is this report different than the way you've always told the story? And he said, because no one would believe me if I told the truth. So he had always downplayed the numbers and said it was a half dozen or so. It was 60, it was over 60 enemy planes he personally engaged.
Pop Doersch ended the war with 158 combat missions, 567 combat hours, and a fistful of commendations. After the war, he went back to farming at Seymour. After 15 months in reserve, he was called back to active duty, serving in several roles in the Army Air Forces and Air National Guard at air bases in Texas and Washington State. Pop Doersch went west, as old pilots do, in 1994. He was buried with full honors at Arlington National Cemetery. If you visit the Wisconsin Veterans Museum on the Capitol Square in Madison, you will see a P-51 Mustang hanging from the ceiling with the words "Old Goat" painted on its cowling. And who knows, if you happen to be there very late at night, you just might see Pop himself sitting in the cockpit.
If Georgianne Doersch Paddock would please come to the podium. As you saw, Colonel Doersch had a storied and distinguished career. He answered his country's call several times, and for this, we induct him into the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame, accepting on his behalf is his daughter, Georgianne Doersch Paddock.
Thank you so much, and thank you to this wonderful group. Hey Doersches, we got Doersches here. We got 2 tables of Doersches. We are honored to celebrate all of our inductees and to be among this wonderful group that celebrates and that uplifts and that furthers aviation in Wisconsin. Thank you so much.
Thank you both, and congratulations. And I think a lot of you came from the East Coast, from what I understand. So thanks for making the trek. For our next inductee, he was quoted as saying once, "There's nothing else like it." That's JB's response when he was asked to explain the experience of piloting an F-15 Eagle fighter jet in peacetime or in combat. There's every emotion, he explained, every element of excitement and intrigue. In combat, though, multiply that times 10. As you're about to see, John J.B. Kelk's lifetime in the air can easily be explained the same way. From record victories to record hours to 2 dual full-time careers spanning more than 30 years each. There's just simply nothing else like it.
America's future will be determined by your dreams and your visions.
For some of you will travel where no man has ever traveled before. Some of you will fly the fastest planes that have ever been built, reach the highest altitude that man has ever gone to.
Whether you serve in the skies above or on the ground below, each of you has stepped forward to defend your country.
The American people support you. They are counting on you, and they believe you truly do represent the best of America.
Ready? Ready to go.
The F-15 can fly 3 times as fast as a 747 passenger jet. Its massive engines generate over 50,000 pounds of thrust.
The Soviet MiG-29 was a very agile, very capable fighter aircraft designed by Mikoyan specifically to counter new U.S. fighter planes like the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle and the General Dynamics F-16 Falcon. Deployed into the Soviet Air Force in 1983, it was also sold to India, Libya, East Germany, and other Soviet allies, including Iraq. By 1990 and the invasion of Kuwait, the Iraqi Air Force had 39 MiG-29s. Captain John J.B. Kelk was an F-15 pilot in the 33 Tactical Fighter Wing based at Elgin Air Force Base in Florida. On August 28, 1990, his fighter wing was deployed to Saudi Arabia and began training for the war that might or might not come. On January 15, 1991, Iraqi forces still occupied Kuwait. On the 16th, Kelk's fighter wing learned that the airstrikes would begin on the following day. JB's interest in aviation started early. At age 3 or 4, he was already pestering his parents to take him to the airport at Eau Claire, Wisconsin, to watch the airplanes take off and land.
Fast forward then to high school, I started, I got my first part-time job as a janitor in a auto body shop for Mr. Tom Kiwan. Great role model and working hard, but he was also flying, and I said, oh, I've always had an interest in that. And so between the income that I would earn from there, then I had enough where I could actually begin flying lessons, and so I did. And so I approached Mr. Darrell Gibson, who's, by the way, a Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Famer himself. I approached him and I said, hey, I would like to work for you. And so he hired me to work the flight line. Okay. At the time, we were also interested in flying. And so for me, that gave me a break on the flying lessons and the cost of the airplane.
JB learned to fly, adding ratings until becoming a certified flight instructor during college.
That was in the late 70s, early 80s, and general aviation was really slowing down during that time. And I was about to graduate in a couple of months, and right there on the front page of the Wall Street Journal was an article that said the Air Force is short 2,000 pilots. And so I literally clipped that article out of the student news from the student library, took it to the recruiter, my local Air Force recruiter, laid it on his desk, and I said, is that true? 3 months later, I had short hair and I was learning how to salute.
He graduated at the top of his class of 50, and he was the only one chosen to fly the F-15 fighter jet.
We had a Air Force Day where they flew in different types of airplanes, including an F-15 and F-16. And I took a look at that F-15 on the flight ramp, and I thought that was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I ended up putting in 4 an F-15 on my dream sheet, and was lucky enough that I did get it.
In Iraq in 1991, the airstrikes began in the early hours of January 17th. It was a surprise attack targeting the capital and Scud missile sites. The F-15s would follow the first wave of F-17 stealth bombers to destroy any enemy planes and clear a path for the second wave of bombers. Kelk, in a flight of 4 F-15Cs, crossed the border into Iraq just after 3 a.m.
Number one is we trained at night where most of our adversaries do not. So we felt we owned the night. So as we swept in high, 30,000 feet, and my particular engagement, we found each other on radar roughly the same time. And so I could tell someone was locked to me and I was locked to this guy, and then employed my weapons, taking advantage of the greater speed and altitude up high that I had. So approximately a 20-mile missile shot, if you will, and then maneuvered away. We dropped chaff, which is designed to defeat the enemy radar, and I did that. Turned back in and then saw the fireball.
He learned that the enemy aircraft he had destroyed was a MiG-29, and the first MiG-29 ever shot down in combat.
And at that time, we were flying a lot, so I went back to the hooch and maybe tossed and turned for a few hours and came back in for my next flight. I remember the squadron commander, I says, I'm going to change this. I've replayed this engagement in my head over and over and over again, and I know the timing. I'm going to confirm it. And he looked at me, he says, you can't do that. I said, what do you mean I can't do that? I know what I saw. He says, no, AWACS already confirmed it for you. So
Kelk retired in 2019 as a Major General with a total of 38 years of military service. Back in 2006, John Kelk became the first pilot to log more than 4,000 hours flying F-15s. Few F-15 pilots ever reached 2,000 hours in the Eagle. In an interview, Kelk said that the 4,000-hour milestone was nice to reflect on. But he said, "You cross it and then look at your next flight, because you're only as good as your last sortie." Kelk also had a 32-year airline career at American Airlines. American, in particular, had a friendly military absence policy, granting him ample time off and flexibility to continue his F-15 flying career, along with various staff positions, all while flying an airline schedule. Quote, "It wasn't always easy. Some months I would work a combined 25-plus days. But American Airlines and my supportive wife, Michelle, allowed me that dual career opportunity."
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome retired American Airlines Captain, Air Force Major General John J.B. Kelk.
Thank you, Kurt. Can everyone hear me okay, I hope? Thank you, Kurt, for those overly kind and generous remarks, and Scott for the video. I really appreciate all those. Always strange seeing yourself in one of those. To anyone who's been filmed before, I think you can relate. What I would like to do is kind of channel my comments. You know, if you look at the banner, it says Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame. I want to focus on the first two letters, Wisconsin Aviation. The HF piece hasn't quite sunk in yet, so let me tie my remarks to that. And let me first begin by saying how unbelievably proud I am to be from Wisconsin, born and raised and educated in this state. Cheeseheads unite. I can think of no other place that the people have the values, the hard work ethic, and the true, genuine spirit of one-on-one engagement. A yes means yes and no means no, and we can still smile while we do it. And it's always a pleasure to be up in this state, so I cannot thank my heritage growing up, and I do believe that is a foundation that those of us from this state can take and go around and export to, and that leads to success, and you'll hear me talk about that. So that's Wisconsin, number one. Number two is aviation, and for me that began in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, Chippewa Valley Regional Airport with Gibson Aviation. And you heard earlier, Gerald Gibson was my first aviation boss, and I'm so proud that Darrell Jr. is here to reflect, or to represent the Gibson family. Please extend my thanks to the entire Gibson Aviation family, and it was a family affair, and there are several alumni of that era in the 70s and 80s, and I can see them. There's John, myself, John, and Ron, all were flyers or worked at the airport during that time, and so it was a very, very special time, but it, for me, formed the aviation roots and foundation which led to the career that you just saw. Speaking of which, when I began flying, and that was in 1975, hard to believe, 49 years ago, and my flight instructor is here. Jerry, would you raise your hand? Mr. Jerry LeBaron. Class of 2018, I might mention. And Jerry was, and like most good instructors, Jerry left quite an impression for me. And one of which I would highlight is not just passion. I think most of this people in this room have a passion for aviation. But what he did is modeled for me what a guided passion is, or a professional passion. Passion means you're working towards something, okay? And I saw what he was working towards, and it kind of gave me this goal mindset. So it's not just enough to take a flying lesson, but how am I going to apply that? And so, Jerry, I thank you for that. The other thing that Jerry did for me to form a foundation for my aviation career was respect. And in this business, you have to respect what we're doing. And it doesn't matter if you're flying professionally or recreationally. You know, it's a three-dimensional sport, and you have to make sure you respect what you're doing. That means you put the time and effort in to do it right. So Jerry, I credit you as starting my Aviation Foundation, leading to what you saw, and I thank you so much for that. You pretty well saw most of my Air Force career, so I don't really need to go over that. But here representing my Air Force family is Corey Cornum. Corey was my flight surgeon, and like a good flight surgeon or AME does, they keep you flying. They don't prevent you from flying. And so Corey, flight surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, but you know what Corey is to me? Corey's a flyer. All right, that's how I know him. He's a flyer. I had the chance to go out and fly in his Carbon Cub tailwheel airplane out in Colorado recently, and just had a blast. It reminded me of the time John Wolf and I would fly his Cessna 140 around in this state before I even entered the Air Force, and or brought a Super Cub back from the factory in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania. Darrell Gibson Sr. allowed me to do that, and those memories are just so special. So again, Wisconsin and aviation to that Air Force career. Corey, I'm honored that you're here. Let me shift to my American Airlines career for a moment. You saw the tail end of it, the water cannon salute, which was very special. But I do want to emphasize not just the military-friendly policy that American Airlines has. In my view, American, not to talk ill of anyone else, but in my view, American Airlines is a leader both in aviation safety as well as training. And so I asked Captain Tom Egbert and his wife to show up tonight to please, Amy, I want to convey my gratitude for the 32 years I had, and please take that both above and below, especially the flight admin office, the support that they gave me to be part of a culture that was that way. The aviation safety so aligns with how I believe things. Also, I'm joined by fellow Czech pilots. I see Eric Roth, Jim Flynn, and Steve Katarinas are here. I was very fortunate my last 5 years at American to work in the training department, and I mentioned the focus that American Airlines has on training. Not only that, but we were able, if you haven't seen, there's a huge turnover currently in airline aviation. 15,000 pilots roughly at American Airlines, and we're turning over half of them in less than 7 years. And so that's a huge responsibility, but also a huge joy. And I was able to work with these fine gentlemen. They're here today, particularly Steve Katarinas, who is our leader, and oh, by the way, a fellow Wisconsinite. So Steve, thank you for your leadership and mentorship. You're a great friend as well, so thank you so much. Shifting gears for foundations, of course, there's family. I'm joined by my older brother and best friend, as well as my biggest aviation cheerleader, Larry. Thank you so much for being here tonight, as well as Michelle, my wife. You saw the acknowledgement there. If I may, Michelle and I share a similar faith. That is, if God's give you certain opportunities and abilities, then you really need to act on it. That's why you're here. And so hers was education, special ed specifically, and mine was aviation. And so we were aligned that way, but the simple fact is I would not have had the career I did without your support. So I share this recognition with you, Michelle. Thank you so much. Lastly, let me bring this home with Wisconsin and aviation. I was a 21-year-old kid leaving this state to join the Air Force. I had absolutely no idea what I was getting into, and I mean no idea. Well, at Gibson Aviation, we had a charter pilot by the name of Dan Dowdy, and he was a retired colonel, 24 years in the Air Force. So I approached Dan one day and I said, hey, I'm about to join the Air Force. Can you give me a, what can I expect? Give me some pointers. Give me the gouge. That's what all pilots want, right? And he looked at me. He was a pretty soft-spoken, quiet guy, but he looked at me and he said, don't let the little stuff bug you. And he kind of looked and a little wry smile and then walked away. And I was like, that's it? Don't let the little stuff bug you? And I thought about that, but as I reflected on this more and more, he wasn't giving me advice to survive basic training or pilot training. Those are quite scripted, and they just play out the way they do. What he was giving me was career advice, all right? There's big stuff and little stuff. Big stuff is flying for the Air Force or supporting missions in the Air Force that defend a nation or promote peace throughout the world. Big stuff is flying safely to and from a destination with 180 people on board, or training the next generation pilots. That's big stuff. All the little stuff that gets in the way, it's just little stuff. And I had many times throughout my career, in both careers actually, where I would have maybe a crummy day or a bad day or something that was irritating me, but I would reflect on that. And what brought that home was that my worst day ever at American Airlines or the Air Force was still better than the best day Colonel Dan Dowdy had as a 7.5-year POW in Vietnam. Think about that. So that was the best advice anyone ever gave me, is to keep the big stuff in mind and the perspective. And I bring this all the way home to the foundation, is how grateful I am to be from this state, to give me the values and perspectives coming from Wisconsin and my roots in aviation that I had from Gibson Aviation. It is indeed an honor for me, 44 years after I left the state, to come back in this setting to be honored in this way. I'm so grateful. Thank you all.
Thank you, John. That was incredible. To present John Hatz for enshrinement, please welcome Hall of Fame Secretary, Mr. Henry Peterson.
Thank you. I hope we all realize that this is the premier aviation event in Wisconsin. Just think about it. This is over the top, and it preserves the history of aviation in Wisconsin. And I want to encourage everybody to, because we're trying to build our numbers, if you know of somebody that should be part of this organization, please invite them to pick up a Forward in Flight and enroll and become a member. We need young people, so please keep that in mind. And so next we're going to start to watch a video on John Hatz.
John Hatz didn't intend his little Waco-inspired home build to become a popular amateur-built airplane. He designed it and built it simply because it was what he wanted to fly. And the story of the Hatz biplane might have ended there if not for a chance encounter at an Iowa fly-in. Born in 1925, John Hatz grew up on a farm near the Wisconsin River. As a boy, he built and flew model airplanes. And while still in high school, he started flying lessons and worked towards his private ticket. He enlisted in the Army, where he learned to splice telephone cables. Back in civilian life, he put that training to work, but soon realized that aviation was the path he wanted to follow. Using his GI Bill benefits, he returned to school to earn his airframe and power plant mechanic certificate and his commercial pilot and instructor pilot ratings. For a time, he ran a small fixed-based operation in Earlville, Illinois. It was not successful, and he moved to Arkansas to work as a crop duster. He soon realized that dusting was not his life's ambition, and he moved back to Wisconsin to work as a mechanic and flight instructor at an FBO near Wausau. During his 11 years at the FBO, he got married and began raising a family. Along the way, bitten by the airplane bug, he wanted an affordable, two-place, easy-to-fly biplane. He thought about building a classic Great Lakes biplane from plans. Built between 1929 and 1936, the Great Lakes 2T was one of the most popular sport planes in its day. But John could not find a set of plans for the 2T, so he set aside the idea while he rebuilt a J3 Cub. While at home, recovering from a work-related injury, he used his free time to create sketches and construct wing ribs for a biplane of his own design. After returning to work, he purchased ordering tubing and built the fuselage frame and wing center section. He bought a small farm east of Wausau where he planned to build a grass runway and finish his home-built biplane. The biplane project progressed, but was interrupted by another project, a Vili monocoque. That project was also interrupted when in 1963, John was hired as manager of the Merrill Municipal Airport. With neither of his projects flyable, he bought a Piper PA-11 Cub Special to use as a flight trainer. His airport business struggled at first and left him little time or money for airplane projects. But as the business gradually succeeded, he finished the monocoque project. And in early 1966, he turned his attention back to his home-built biplane. He finished it over the next 18 months. The biplane made its first flight in the spring of 1968. Hatz raced to fly the hours needed for FAA approval so he could begin taking the biplane to fly-ins.
He was an EAA member from a very young, knew Paul very well, could pick up the phone and call him at any time, and Paul would take his call. So, yeah, and some of the other guys around the state, Steve Whitman and stuff, they were all, Kreitz brothers were very good friends. They come up every fall hunting. I don't think a lot of hunting got done on those hunting trips, but it was knew those guys well also.
His little home built was everything he had hoped it would be. An affordable, two-place, easy-to-fly biplane and lots of fun. At fly-ins around the Midwest, it attracted a lot of attention. People began asking about plan sets for building the biplane. But John only had rough working drawings. He had meant only to build the airplane for himself. He didn't care about drawing or selling. That summer, John flew the biplane to the Antique Aircraft Association fly-in Ottumwa, Iowa. Parked next to his home built was a de Havilland Gypsy Moth, owned by Dudley Kelly of Versailles, Kentucky. He said he was looking for an affordable two-place, easy-to-fly biplane. "I like yours," he told Hatz. "Where can I get a set of plans?" Hatz told Dudley they could probably work something out, but privately, John dismissed the idea as just fly-in talk. Much to John's surprise, Dudley was determined, and a week later he flew to Merrill and took measurements of Hatz's biplane. With plans available, the design gained popularity, and the Hatz Biplane Association was formed to sell plan sets and foster a community of builders.
When it came time to license the airplane, he had a data plate there that he had stamped, but he had not filled in all the blanks, and the FAA inspector said, "You got to have a model number." And so my dad on the fly looked at it and said, "Well, it has a Continental engine, it's a biplane, hence the CB1," and I don't know which stood for Continental Biplane.
Hatz's original design, the Hatz CB1, has inspired a few variants. Its cousins include a slightly larger version, the Hatz Classic. The Kelly D biplane. The newest member of the Hatz family is the Hatz Bantam. Today, the Hatz Biplane Association offers plans for all 4 biplanes in the Hatz family. As for John Hatz, he retired and kept on happily flying his home built, teaching people to fly in his J3 Cub and enjoying life at Hay Meadow Airport, the private grass runway on his farm near Merrill. And he undoubtedly felt a little pride in the popularity of his affordable 2-place, easy-to-fly biplane. Sadly, John was killed in a car accident in 1989, but his contribution to grassroots aviation lives on.
So I'd like to welcome, on behalf of John Hatz, Lyman Hatz, to accept the plaque for this year's class of 2024.
Well, thank you. Tomorrow would have been my dad's 99th birthday, so this is quite a nice birthday present for him. I sure appreciate it. And by means, a couple little introductions here. My dad has one sibling left, his younger sister Marilyn. My Aunt Mickey sitting over here, and it was nice for him to be able to get this award while she was able to see it happen. And she's got her family with her at the table there. We appreciate them coming. Also, my brother Clifford is here. My son Wyatt, my daughter, and and her family members here, and my wife Judy. So I would just want to, and there's a lot of friends. I'm not going to call them all out, but they're here, and we sure appreciate it. And I want to thank the Hall of Fame Board of Directors for this wonderful recognition of my dad. It's sure appreciated. Thank you very much.
And now to present Robert Lussow for enshrinement, please welcome Hall of Fame Director and 2022 inductee himself, Mr. John Dorsey.
Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Kirk. I do want to call everybody's attention to your dining area. You all probably saw a little trading card in front of your plate or on top of your plate when you sat down and wondered, what the heck am I supposed to do with that? It's a very rare opportunity that you have in your hand. I've got one of Brigadier General Pete Drawn, who was inducted in 2014. And so first of all, you can trade those if you'd like with people at your table, or if you're so inclined, we have about 40 of the 150 inductees in the Hall of Fame with a trading card. And if you'd like to help us get the rest of the 110 inductees so honored with a trading card, you could see Rose back here, or she'll be probably back in the back later on. We'd really love to be able to honor all of our inductees with those trading cards. I'm also reminded of the fact that we've got our website, and on there we have a number of articles, and it's Christmas time coming up. Everybody's already marketing Christmas, sadly, in the stores, but I did write an article about John Hatz up at Merrill, and he was flying a gentleman around who was a singer, and they sang Christmas carols from a Cessna 172, if you can imagine, in the late 50s, early 60s. So I can't quite imagine walking around the streets of Merrill, Wisconsin with a 172 overhead with Christmas carols coming out of it. But anyway, there's a great story. So if you haven't visited the website to read that story, by all means. It's my great honor to be able to introduce this video that we're going to watch of a friend of mine, Bob Lussow. Scott?
What does it take to fly?
It takes knowing we have our work cut out for us. Flying brings more challenges every day. But if you ask any of the pilots who work here, they'll say one of the first things they learned in flight school is that if you run before the wind, you can't take off. You've got to turn into it. Face it. The thing you push against is the thing that lifts you up. So every challenge, really, is a chance to show that even in this crazy world of no liquids, take your shoes off, cost-cutting, and route cancellations, someone in this industry still has the passenger's back. It starts with a simple hello, and it ends in over 350 destinations worldwide. And along the way, we'll prove we're not just building a bigger airline, we're building a better one.
This is your captain speaking. Flight crew, prepare for takeoff.
Bob Lussow was in 4th grade when he declared that the job he wanted most was flying airplanes. He grew up in Chicago, not far from Orchard Field, which would later become O'Hare International Airport. In 1957, when he was 14 years old, he began riding his bike to Orchard Field to hand polish a Ryan Navion in return for rides and the chance to take the controls. At 16, he began taking flying lessons in a J-3 Cub at Ravenwood Airport, located on the north side of Orchard Field. He soloed at age 17, still riding his bike to the airport because he did not yet have a driver's license. After graduating from Lane Technical High School in Chicago, he enrolled in the School of Aeronautical Engineering at Tulsa University in Oklahoma. He didn't do much flying on his own at Tulsa, but a sweetheart back home kept him riding the airways between Tulsa and Chicago on a $19 student airline fare. He married Tina, his sweetheart, in 1962, and the couple settled near Chicago, where Lussow worked as a line boy at Roselle Field, later Schaumburg Regional Airport. While there, he earned his private, commercial, and instructor ratings and worked on instrument and multi-engine ratings while flying charters in a Bonanza and instructing at Roselle Field. In the mid-1960s, United Airlines offered a program to hire new pilots and help them get the required ratings. Bob applied twice and was turned down twice. Pilot friends at the airport suggested he apply to Delta Airlines, a small Atlanta-based carrier that was serving Chicago. When Delta hired him in October 1965, Bob had only a temporary instrument license, no multi-engine rating, and about 900 hours of flight time.
I got a chance to fly with all the fellas that came back from World War II. I'll say this, I've said it before, every one of them was a character, every one of them. And yet I figured that if they survived World War II, the minimal training they had to start with, and got back alive, I figured they had something to teach, and every one of them did. So I had some of the best teachers I guess you could ever hope to have.
At Delta, Bob earned his flight engineer rating in 1966 and flew as engineer on DC-6s and DC-7s. Delta Airlines was expanding, and flight crews were being rapidly promoted. Lussow upgraded to first officer while building time for an air transport pilot rating. He flew first officer on DC-6s and 7s, and later on the DC-9 twin-engine jet and the Convair 880, a four-engine jet. He earned his multi-engine and air transport pilot ratings on the DC-9. And in 1972, he moved into the left seat. When Delta acquired the Boeing 727, he transitioned to pilot that jet. By 1971, Bob had a successful career with Delta, and he and Tina had 4 children. He partnered with another Delta pilot to buy 640 acres in northern Wisconsin and build a chalet. The whole family dove into winter sports, and Bob and his partner bought a snowmobile dealership. Before long, he and Tina decided to make Wisconsin their home. They bought and rebuilt a home on Lake Nokomis near Tomahawk, Wisconsin. Bob bought his first airplane, a Cessna Skylark, and began building a Vans RV-6. At Delta, Bob advanced to flying the Boeing 757 and 767 on international routes. He retired as an international captain in 1997 after 3 decades with Delta Airlines.
Took me 32 years to do all this. So it was just one heck of a ride. The Piper Cub and the 757 are so similar in the way they fly. They're both honest airplanes. The difference is the 757 had some power. The Piper Cubs that we fly even today are slightly above a lawnmower.
In 2016, he and Tina moved to Richfield, Wisconsin, near Milwaukee, to be closer to the kids.
I took her to an EAA meeting. I don't remember if it was a breakfast or a cookout or something. She met Steve Crow and started telling him what a great guy and pilot and all that stuff that I was. And he looked up at me and said, "You're hired." I thought he was kidding, but been here ever since. Have a good deal. And I'm right back where I started.
For more than 60 years, Bob Lussow has lived, loved, and promoted aviation and aviation safety whenever and wherever he could. He holds the Master CFI designation from the National Association of Flight Instructors and was named a Wright Brothers Master Pilot by the FAA. With over 40,000 hours of flight time, he has served as pilot, flight instructor, spokesperson for the FAA Pilot Proficiency Program, flight school owner, and aviation and airport ambassador. And he has been a mentor to dozens, perhaps hundreds of individuals interested in aviation.
But to tell you the truth, the biggest thrill that I get, and I know I speak for Steve as well, is when we see these kids, if you will, come out here and actually one way or another they end up getting their ticket, their certificate, whichever or whatever it is. To watch them when they walk in with that in hand makes it all worthwhile.
So those of you who are members of the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame will be getting your quarterly magazine, Forward in Flight, here in another couple of weeks. And in that magazine, you'll find the last of our inductees profiled. And in doing some research, I found out that Bob wasn't just a supporter of the airport. This guy is all in, and those of you that know him realize that. But he didn't just become the chairman of the advisory committee for the Airport Commission. No, he didn't stop there. He became a county board county board supervisor for 16 years. As if that wasn't enough, he then went on to become the county board chair for 8 years. So he was really a supporter of the airport in lots of various ways. Bob is still a mentor and creating all kinds of pilots every day in the J3. Please welcome Bob Lussow. Bob.
Well, I'm not the kind of guy that sits up here and does a lot of talking. Now, I'm sure there's some back there in the back there that probably disagree, but in any case, I want to thank you all for coming. This is a huge honor, and I can't tell you how I appreciate it. The WAHF is doing a great job, and I hope that you all can support it in one way, shape, or form. And so I say thank you right then and there again to the WAHF. You saw a little bit of my, I have to say, however long that little video was, it's like watching your life just roll right on by. Obviously, there's a lot that's not in there, but I'm really pleased. I have my whole family, my 4 kids and their wives or husband, and I have some of my grandchildren. We have 11 grandkids and 2 great-grandkids. And then, of course, I got my pillar. Why don't you stand up, Ma? It's 61 years this year. So she's been the pillar that's kept me going. As you know, aviation is a lot of ups and downs. And I don't mean just in the airplane. But she was always there, and she always kept me that on the forward path. Especially when I came home and said, well, I'm going to buy an airplane. She didn't think it was a good idea, but I did it anyways. So 9 or 10 airplanes later, she's still doing it. The story you saw on the video about getting hired over at Cub Air is 100% true. I still don't know why you did that, Steve. But anyways, we have a great bunch of people from Cub Air tonight, and thank you all for coming. There's not much more I can really say that isn't really covered. But in any case, I'd like to ask one favor. All of the people that have been involved with me from Northern Skies, which was my business up in northern Wisconsin, or from Cub Air, could you all stand for a minute, and my family too, please? And on that note, I don't think I can top it, so thank you very much.
What a tremendous way to symbolize how easy it is to take something we love and pass it on to others and affect their lives as well. Thank you for that. Presenting our final inductee this evening, Caroline Blaze Jensen. Please welcome former Hall of Fame President and 2022 inductee, Mrs. Rose Dorsey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Caroline Bong Jensen, Blaze Jensen, for induction this evening. Blaze is a Wisconsin native whose remarkable career has taken her from flying combat missions this is giving me shivers, seriously, combat missions to serving as a U.S. Air Force Thunderbird. Her leadership and passion for aviation have left an indelible mark, not only in the sky, but also in the lives of the countless young pilots she has mentored along the way. Carol's journey is a testament to resilience, service, and a deep commitment to inspiring future aviators. How? Well, let me tell you, there's a whole lot here. She graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy in 1998, paving the way for a groundbreaking career in military aviation. She was a trailblazing, got that name Blaze, right? A trailblazing Thunderbird pilot. She was the first female reserve officer to join the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds as the number 3 right wing pilot, showcasing elite flying skills and breaking gender barriers. She has extensive flight experience, over 3,500 flight hours, including 1,870 hours in the F-16 Fighting Falcon, with 200 combat hours and 15 hours of 1,500 plus instructional hours in the T-38 Talon. She made history as the first woman qualified to fly the Boeing T-7A Red Hawk, the Air Force's new advanced jet trainer. And I've got a little bit more to add. She was an Operation Iraqi Freedom veteran. She played a critical role in supporting U.S. and Allied ground troops, demonstrating her commitment to operational excellence. She served as a legislative fellow, served in the Secretary of the Air Force Legislative Liaison Senate Office, leading strategic legislative efforts, and later took on pivotal roles in flight operations and squadron leadership. She was an advocate for women in aviation. She's a former vice president of the National WASP World War II Museum, and she's actively promoting the legacy of female aviators. And maybe even most importantly, she's a role model and she's a devoted mother. She's the proud mother of Finn, and Finn was the first child. Think of this. He was the first child to watch his mother perform in the advanced jet demonstration team. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment and hear her story.
Wisconsin native Caroline Jensen, call sign Blaze, became the 4th woman to fly with the U.S. Air Force Demonstration Squadron, the Thunderbirds. Jensen credits Nicole Malachowski, the first woman pilot to fly with the Thunderbirds in 2006, and others for helping to open that door.
So at a young age, I decided I wanted to be in the military, and then I saw the Thunderbirds fly in an air show, and I honestly didn't remember it, except my aunt actually took a picture of me holding a Blue Angels banner pennant at a Blue Angels air show in North Dakota. So I know I saw them first, but I do remember seeing the Thunderbirds fly in La Crosse at the air show and just feeling that emotion of those aircraft rushing by and the feeling of the jet engines in your chest, I was like, that's what I really want to do.
Caroline Jensen was born Caroline Bong. She is not related to Richard Bong, America's top ace pilot, but having the same name might have given a little boost to her ambition to fly. When Caroline was still in high school, her father, Tom Bong, flew helicopters for the Minnesota National Guard, and he supported Caroline's wish to join the Air Force. One day, he learned that Betty Strophus, a WASP veteran, was living nearby. He found her address, knocked on her door, and announced, "My daughter wants to be an Air Force pilot."
I just want them to know that it wasn't always easy being a pilot as a woman. But I thank God that we were given the right to fly.
Caroline would later get to know Betty and other WASP veterans as friends and mentors, and they continued to inspire her throughout her Air Force career.
The Air Force Academy is an extremely difficult university to get into. I believe the stats, about 10% of applicants get selected to go to the academy, and I had to work really hard for that. The things I really struggled with was academics, and lucky for me, one of the things I really excelled at was flying the glider.
539, 2 minutes of downwind. The core values of the United States Air Force Academy are integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. I'm gonna bring it down, I'm just gonna flare so we don't hit down too hard. I'm gonna try and slow us down as much as possible. Yeah, there we go. That's what a normal flight here at soaring is a lot like.
Caroline graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy in 1998. On active duty, she flew Schweitzer gliders, Cessna Skyhawks, and T-37 Tweets. With the 4th Fighter Squadron based at Hill Air Force Base in Utah, she flew the F-16 fighter jet. Her squadron deployed to the Middle East as part of the 2007 troop surge. Soon after returning home in early 2008, she became pregnant. After her son was born, she looked for more opportunities to fly. When she heard that the Air Force was creating a Thunderbird team of reserve pilots, she immediately applied with the support from a former Thunderbird pilot and from her squadron commander.
And I got a phone call, and it was Thunderbird 1 through 12 were all on a conference call, and it was like really noisy, and I was literally in Cinderella's castle at Disneyland, and I walked over to the side, and I've got my phone and got plugging one ear so I can hear what's going on the phone, and each one went through like, "Hey Blaze, you're gonna be fantastic, we really loved meeting you," and really awesome. So that was the magic of Disney.
Blaze started Thunderbird training at the end of 2011. Typically, a show season spanned 2 years. However, in 2013, the Thunderbirds were grounded due to sequestration. She ended up flying the 2012 and 2014 seasons.
That Friday after the show, too, we would, that was only open to friends and family. A lot of times they would have Make-A-Wish families there. And you'd go into the tent, and it was just really wonderful. Like, you'd think, man, that's such a hard thing to do. And I just came to love it so much because it was a reprieve for these families who are dealing with like really serious issues all the time. And to give their kid some joy and get them out of the hospital. And the brothers and sisters who like everything was focused around, the illness, and, the parents too, just to hug them and hold them and sign things and take pictures. Like, that was really meaningful. I loved that part of the job.
Blaze still works to inspire and mentor others through public speaking, a children's book, and one-on-one conversations with young women. Reflecting on her success as a fighter pilot and Thunderbird team member, she says, if you match your dreams with focused determination, anything is possible.
So I think my last year on the team, we wouldn't do flybys very often, but one of the flybys that we did do was for the MLB All-Star game that took place in at the Twins Stadium. And when you do those setups, the national anthem usually takes about 90 seconds. Like, they literally have bets on it in Vegas every year, like how long the national anthem will take at the Super Bowl or whatever. So we were out there holding, and it was in Wisconsin, and I had a little iPad on my knee, and this was before like the electronic pubs kits and all that stuff, but I like looked down and I was like, oh, we're like holding over, I can see like this hospital down there, and just, you know, waiting for the national anthem to start. And I was like, I wonder where that is. And I look on my knee pad, and it was New Richmond, Wisconsin. And like, I was flying over the hospital where I was born in 2014 in my F-16, getting ready to, you know, fly by all the top players in the Major League Baseball, you know, and it was really cool, and friends from high school. But just to be up there, oh, I wonder what that is. Look down and be like, wow, that's where it all started. And like, look at where I am now. It was pretty cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, Blaze Jensen.
All right, well, I guess I first want to say congratulations to all the other inductees tonight. I'm really honored to share this stage in 2024 with you all. So thank you for that, and also to the committee and everybody at the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame. I mean, this is amazing, beautiful. I can't believe I'm standing here. So thank you for thinking of me and inducting me with all of these amazing aviators. I learned a lot in my travels. I was in Korea, Iraq, all over the US, and so I ran into Wisconsinites in the wild. And there's one thing that I learned from that is one thing that everyone from Wisconsin loves cheese, and they also love other people from Wisconsin. So it's really cool to go out and you meet someone in some random place, and you know instantly that you have kind of that bond and that same upbringing and work ethic. And so I've always been very proud to be from Wisconsin. I think I've also been really lucky that since I was 6 years old, I really wanted to be a pilot. And it was 1986 when the first Top Gun movie came out. And when I saw that, I wanted to not be Charlie, I wanted to be Maverick. And I wanted to fly the fighters. So I was really excited about that. I went to a recruiter for the Air Force Academy, and I was like, hey, I want to go do this, I want to fly fighters. And I was told, well, that's great, but women aren't allowed to fly fighters. And that didn't come along until 1993, and I graduated from high school in 1994. So I was kind of in that first wave of women that were able to go in and fly fighters. And there was a press conference held at the Pentagon, and the Chief of Staff of the Air Force introduced the first 3 women fighter pilots. But just a couple weeks before that, he had actually testified before Congress to say that he would rather fly in combat with a less qualified man than a woman on his wing. So that's the kind of climate and huge culture shift that we needed to overcome going into that. But for every person who would rather have a less qualified man, there were some really great allies out there who saw a pilot for what you could do, and that gender didn't matter, and the airplane doesn't know if you're a man or a woman. So everything also is data, it's very objective, so you either can do your job or you can't. And I'm happy to say that in 2007, when we flew in Iraq during the surge, that it seemed like the JTACs, the controllers on the ground, really preferred to work with a lot of the women pilots.
So it ended up being like a big good thing in our benefit. So if you read between the lines on this award, you'll know that this isn't something that I did by myself. I had my family who really supported me, especially with the Thunderbirds, helping to take care of my son, Finn. At the Air Force Academy, I had an adopted family who made sure that I could stay sane and get out of that atmosphere. My fighter pilot family, my first ever squadron commander, fighter squadron commanders here too, who really looked out for me. Some great squadron leadership that I worked with in Iraq was really awesome. I've got friends that I've known here since the very first grade that followed me all the way through everything. And I've got a lot of adopted family and friends here, so I just really thank all of you for everything that you've done for me, supported me, and taken me in as part of your family and friends, and I love you guys. So, and I do want to say a huge thank you, even though there's only about 6 of these women still alive. The World War II WASP were such an inspiration. Because when women couldn't fly fighters, my dad told me, well, back in World War II, they flew everything, every aircraft except for the combat mission. They did all the missions, all the aircraft, just not combat. And so it was my job to make sure that I was prepared so that when the laws changed, that I would be there raising my hand, I'd be qualified and one of the first people to go, and luck was on my side and the timing worked out great. So I'm very honored to have a permanent place in history with this amazing organization. From the beginning of my flying career, like my maiden name was Bong, no relation, but we would get that asked that question a lot. So I knew a lot about that history. Billy Mitchell is an inductee and also the father of the Air Force. So I knew that. General Olstrom is here. I knew he was from Wisconsin. He was a superintendent at the Air Force Academy. So that was something cool to be proud of when I was a freshman. And Lance Syjon, who's an inductee, was a prisoner of war and the first Academy grad to get the Medal of Honor. So I knew I had some pretty big shoes to fill. And I'm very honored to be amongst them, and I promise you guys that I will live up to that history, and I plan on making more in the years to come. So thank you.
Come on, keep that going for all of our 2024 inductees. Thank you all so very much. What an evening in this wonderful place, honoring such wonderful people. Before we close, a few final thank yous. As Blaze so wonderfully pointed out, we don't do this alone. It takes a large army of people to get this done. EA staff, Hannah and Rob. Rob's over in the back there. He's our AV guy, made us all look great. Thank you, Rob. Big thanks to Lussow Catering for the wonderful meal this evening. And also to our bartender staff who made the meal taste even better and the speeches sound that much better. And thank you to our sponsors. We've had the biggest round of sponsorship to make this evening happen this year, and we've got a couple of them. Plane Safe Aircraft Maintenance, they were a silent auction sponsor. Elevate Aircraft and QRS Group for the pre-flight function when you walked in. Fabic Cat sponsored all of our videos tonight, and Bedford Development, Meat and Hunt and Engineering Group, and the Dracap Heating and Air Conditioning Company all sponsored dinner. So thank you all for your sponsorship and your partnership. Finally, an enormous thank you to our friends Scott and Kyle in the back. They put together all these videos. They did countless hours of research and video calls to make everything look so great. Those videos are not only something that we watch tonight, it becomes heirlooms for the families and our inductees. So thank you, friends. You are great partners and friends. We appreciate it. And now to close the evening, I'd like to welcome back to the stage Mr. Dick Hanusa for the benediction and Lieutenant General Tad Olstrom to retire the colors.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for blessing this wonderful evening of this Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And please watch over, bless, and protect everybody here this evening on their travels home, wherever that may be. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll ask you to rise one more time if able. Color guard, retire the colors.
How about a big round of applause for that awesome color guard? Thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed your evening. Come see us next year, and please drive and fly safe. Good night.